Hey, are you reading these Walmart comic books lately? These things are actually pretty good. Let's roll that intro and talk about them. Hey, what's going on out there, you wonderful weirdos? I'm Pocan Joe, and as always, you're pretty cool for swinging by. So there I was, relaxing in my lounger, and my wife's like, "We got to go to Walmart," and I'm like, "What's the we part? You do that." And she's like, "No, you're coming with me," typical family stuff. And I was like, "Okay, all right, I'm gonna go." So we go, and I think. Within the first 5 minutes, I got bored and I was like, hey, Walmart has comic books. Let's go check them out. Very rarely do I pick these books up, and I don't know why I don't pick these things up more. These things were just awesome. So I picked up 3 of them this week, and we're going to talk about them, do a quick review of them. All these have multiple stories in them, and I'll just do like a quick synopsis of some of the more interesting ones. The first one was Batman #1, and then we picked up Villains #1, and we picked up Ghost #1. Now, I'm not a fan of the gimmick of just throwing random #1s on stories to try to figure things out, but with the multiple stories in this, it kind of made sense. So the very first one that I got, and it was the first one I started thumbing through, and that's when I decided to go ahead and buy some, was this Ghost #1s. They're gearing up for Halloween, I believe, and this stuff was just absolutely good. In here, we get a story with Spectre called The Shop of Nightmares, and they're using a trope of a clock stealing somebody's youth from them and giving it to somebody else. So this particular villain could be bad. I really like this, but most of all, it had our hero in it, the Spectre. I think it's a highly underrated character. Like, I like the Spectre, and I love it. He's doing his little detective thing, and then he turns into the Ghost. Obviously, he beats the bad guy in this because that's what happens in superhero comic books. But I really like this whole take on how time worked in it. It's truly different in most cases. Another story in here was this Child of the Night. This was probably the saddest story in here with the most gimmicky character ever. They had Gentleman Ghost in it. And if you don't know who Gentleman Ghost is, he's a gentleman and he's obviously a ghost. Little girl's running away from some bullies or somebody trying to do some harm to her, ultimately. And she goes into an abandoned house, and who's there? None other than Gentleman Ghost. Gentleman Ghost scares the bad kids, just scares him, and he pulls out a gun and he blam. Well, he's a ghost, so unfortunately, it lands in our little girl. This was a very sad moment, and they definitely undercut it, I thought, in a very positive way. Because with it being a Walmart book, I would imagine more kids read these books than adults, but adults really should be reading them. And Gentleman Ghost kind of takes her on as a sidekick. I kind of thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, sad, tragic, but I like the kind of spin at the end to kind of make it a good thing. The next story in this was a John Constantine story, and it was called The Ghost Within. This was a great take on perception, of what we believe to be bad. So John Constantine shows up to a haunted house, and it is legitimately haunted. Well, maybe not legitimate, because it's a fictitious story. Regardless, the lady that called him ultimately has the demon inside of her, and the ghosts that live in the house are really just benevolent spirits that are being harassed by this devil. And you get the great, if I'll say if you're a John Constantine fan, you'll like this story because you got that witty banter and his kind of just attitude through the whole thing. I thought it was very unique. Next, we get Strange Visitor. Strange Visitor plays off the trope of horror movies. It is a Batman story. In this one, we get all the horror tropes being played out by a serial killer. And, you got the cheerleader slasher, whatever the case may be. The last was the most classic one of a damsel in distress running through the woods, and Batman's coming out of nowhere to thwart the evil people. And he shows up to what is we perceive to be the villain. Well, actually, it's just a guy with a mask, some tape over his mouth, and a machete taped to his hand. Come to find out, the woman that was running away was actually the villain the entire time. Dun, dun, dun. I thought that was a great little take on it. The way this book worked is beautiful. And, of course, she doesn't know what she did wrong because she's insane. That means she goes to Arkham. I kind of hope we see this character again later. I just thought it was great. The next one's a Superman story. Kind of deals with the perception of ghosts and what evil is, but come to find out it's actually somebody that's stuck in the parazone, or the phantom zone. Parazone, the same thing. And it was like one of the first criminals there. The next story in this one was a Wonder Woman and Dead Man story. Again, Dead Man can sometimes come off very hinky and just weird. But in this, we actually find out just how lonely and sad it is to be Dead Man, right? Like, nobody sees him. He's always invisible. He doesn't have any effect on anybody unless he possesses another body. In this one, we also get Faust. He's also trying to raise a demon from some other dimension, whatever, comic book trope, right? Um, and Deadman's trying to help Wonder Woman battle him. He takes over Faust at one point, but because there was a shift in dimensional comic book words now that don't make any sense, but it explains the situation, Deadman's made whole just for a brief period of time, and Wonder Woman does probably the coolest thing she could possibly do. She just gives him a kiss. Something as innocent as a kiss, and touches the side of his face, and that's a memory that he gets to carry on forever because he's constantly in this utter loneliness. I thought that was really great. Very much touches at the heart. Next, we got Blue Beetle and Katana. They're going after an ancient Japanese spirit called Mother Demon. I thought it was a really cool concept, and that's actually kind of a ghost story in Japan too. Just throwing out some knowledge out there. They work well together. I wasn't sure. I thought this would be the bad story in it. Like, legitimately, I thought it would just be the stupid story in it. Come to find out, man, it was just really great. You got to see how Black Lightning's a father, and he wants to take care of the kid, and then they finally ultimately decide that Katana and Black Lightning make a good team, and they're going to team up in some more adventures, hopefully. I thought that was really well written, and the art in it's pretty good too. The next one is a playoff of zombies, right? Now, I know we got Deceased going on right now in DC continuity. This is kind of a break from that, but not really. You'll see a lot of familiar things in it. Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern himself, is on the moon base, Justice League's moon base. I should make that clear. And everybody on Earth is slowly turning into zombies. And the Flash gets transported to the moon, and he's infected, right? Like, he's turning into a zombie. And he's running around causing all kinds of chaos and biting people. Batman gets infected. Martian Manhunter gets infected. Hal Jordan tries to stop this. The coolest part of this book was when he's holding up his ring, and he's about to do something, and the Flash whizzes by and bites off his finger. That happened in this story. I just thought, yeah, that's kind of creepy. And of course, he has to dig deep. I like the moral stories, and then he's dig deep and push on, and he has to make the ultimate sacrifice when he does get his ring back and basically blow up the base. There it is. So yeah, and the last story in this one is just a fun little quib story with Zatanna. Zatanna. And her father it's kind of weird how this story worked. I really like the way it played off of each other. Brother and his friend are trying to scare the little girl that's on a hayride. And it really kind of deals with the spirit of Halloween, right? And like, you hear the togetherness of family at Thanksgiving, your religious deity for Christmas, or whatever the case may be for that. The resolutions for New Year, the spirit of America for 4th of July, and the spirit of Halloween, what should it really be? Well, not everybody wants to be score and gore. They just want to see weird stuff. And everybody turns out to have a really great time in it. I thought that was really great. I liked the interaction between Zatanna and her father. Thought that was really cool. So that was Books of Ghost, number 1. The next one that I read was Villains. This was good. All 3 of these were just magnificently written. Very short stories, get you into the story as quickly as possible, gives you your plot, and just rolls from there. The very first one in this one, and probably the more prevalent one that I found to be actually of some sort of meaning, was babushka. Babushka is not a word, right? First, you should know that. Like, I spent quite a bit of time trying to look this word up. It's a made-up word. Our very first scene in here is that we're opened up to this page right here, and there's a gentleman has had his lawnmower stolen. The man's 61 years old. So to help him out, and he mows lawns for, spare cash or whatever, the Joker donated a lawnmower to him. I guess he was testing the plot of this story or his little scheme. And the guy's like, "Oh, great! I get to mow lawns for the rest of my life." Right? Like, thanks. It wasn't a better mower; it was just another push mower. Um, and then all of a sudden, I was like, "That's kind of weird. Why would the Joker do that?" And we get some introspect on charity as well. Well, what ultimately ends up happening is Batman's been dealing with the lower level criminals in Gotham now. He's not going after the big kingpin types. Um, but because this happens, they're able to get more of a conviction rate, which means more prisons, which means we need bigger prisons, right? There's your synopsis, right? So in order to build the prisons, they had to take some of the money from the health programs, insurance programs and stuff like that. I guess there's some sort of communal lot for that to help people with medical issues and kind of use it to build the better prisons. Well, our boy, the Joker, pops in. He's like, hey, once a week, I'm going to pick 5 people, make a video, yell the word babushka, and he just threw that out there as a whib. And I'll pick the top 5 people, and I'll pay your medical expenses. So at first, not a lot's going on because people aren't trusting it. And of course, an actual charity raiser is sitting there saying, I wouldn't trust this stuff. This stuff never works out very well. Bruce Wayne tries to talk people into donating more money, but rich hate just giving away money for no reason. Then it happens. The people start losing their minds. And they start doing stuff, and they start saying babushka while they're doing it. Just about anything you can think of, people are doing just to be famous. There's something to be said about YouTube in this too, or any social media. My favorite one was the old lady in the cart with the canister underneath it. She's just blasted into babushka land. So Batman's running around trying to save all these people, find out what the word babushka means to get some sort of clue of where the Joker is, and it's not working. And then, like, the saddest thing happens. Our father of a local church finds out that he's got stage 4 cancer. And so he does a video. Only he ends his life at it. And that was sad. So Batman being Batman, he finds out where the Joker is because there's a bug in the background and it only lives in one significant area, whatever the reason may be. So this happens, but then Joker kind of turns the tables on Batman by saying, what law have I broken? People make their own choices, whatever the case may be. So Batman realizes he's got to handle this any way that Bruce Wayne would. So the people are like, okay, let's set up a foundation. You know, rich people are trying to set up foundations, trying to make sense of it. And Bruce Wayne's like, hey, why don't we all just take some money from ourselves and put it in there? And of course they vote against that because so it moves on. So what ends up happening is like all the scholarship funds start getting tapped to support medical stuff now. And it was kind of interesting. And this was actually the rich people's idea. Let's take some money from the scholarship funds that we do in our foundation and move it over to get people healthy again. And not more than a few hours later, there's the Joker back on TV. Hey, I'm going to pick 5 people and I'm going to pay your college tuition. I thought this was a great way of how, and this is something that I kind of deal with in work sometimes, this economic theory. I know this is going to get a little deep for a second, but just work with me. It might be kind of interesting. It might not. I don't know. You can thumbs down it if you like. But adding absurd amounts of money or shifting money around doesn't really better any situation. It just causes cycles of depravity. This is why you have offices in every city called economic development. They're the ones that are supposed to be stopping this kind of stuff. That's their job. Does it work? Does it always work? No, we see bad places everywhere we go. But you try to limit it as best as you can and create economic growth through the people there, giving them education, knowledge, and give them the means to do so, not necessarily the finances. I thought this was a good example of anything, not just the cycle of depravity, but the actual cycle of economic theory and how it actually works. I thought it was interesting. I'm probably looking too deep into it, but I know I'm going to use it for an example. Next story in this one, we get a great story with Wade Wilson, Deathstroke. He's got to go kill Jimmy Olsen. Supergirl isn't hearing it. He knows Supergirl ain't going to let him get away with it, so he basically breaks Jimmy Olsen's camera because Jimmy Olsen took some pictures he probably shouldn't have been taken. The next one, we get this kind of new origin story for Harley Quinn, which I'm okay with. Normally, I'm not a big Harley Quinn fan, especially in continuity that's going on now in comic book shops, but I liked this one. This one made sense. Um, yeah, Harley Quinn, bullied as a high school girl, treated like garbage to show some affections to some guy. Apparently, this guy is now, they're all adults now, and apparently he likes beating his new girlfriend, and his new girlfriend is kind of just numb to it, right? It happens. Um, so Harley Quinn hunts this guy down, gets him trapped in a car that's slowly sinking, slowly asks the young lady, "It's your choice, hon. What do you want to do?" And she goes, "The only compliment he ever gave me was the fact that I'd keep my mouth shut," and turned around and walked off. And I just thought that's great. Now, I think it's very keen to say Harley Quinn is a villain. I've always seen her as a villain. I don't think she deserves any redemption. With that said, I like it when my villains are villainous. Even if it's for the right reason, it's always the end game that always makes it wrong. And I like this Harley Quinn probably better than anything in continuity right now. I'm sure if you like just bad guys being bad guys, you would probably enjoy this too. You definitely want to check it out. Next, we get an origin story of Darkseid or Darkseid or however you want to promote it. How he destroyed all the gods on his planet and even his own brother, changing himself into Darkseid. And then what does that look like? Well, there's a little troublemaker by the name of Kaio. Kaio's a troublemaker on Apocalypse. Uh, Darkseid starts chasing him through different universes. They meet the Justice League. They get into fights, whatever else. And then actually, it was his plan all along. Ha, 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 ha. It was okay. Like, I've read worse. The next one, we get a Reverse Flash story. The only way I can describe this story in the fastest way that I can, and it may not make sense, you have to read the story. It's like a reversed Groundhog's Day. Yeah. I know that doesn't make any sense, right? But you're dealing with time, right? Young Reverse Flash, anything he's ever wanted. Well, if he wanted it bad enough, he would reverse back into time and make it go away. So he killed a brother, tried to get some girl to fall in love with him, killed a competitor at a particular job, just on and on and on and on. And it was just so great. Time stories can be so monotonous at some points. I don't know about you. I was not a big fan of Groundhog Day, but doing it in a reverse flashing like this is actually pretty good. The next one we get in Poison Ivy story, kind of pseudo. Yeah, it's kind of a pseudo origin story. We find out that somebody's got a problem with genetically modified fruits and vegetables. Okay, that's fine. I guess some people have a problem with it. She comes in and basically kills the guy that has a problem with it, saving a local farmer who does organic, because organic's the way to go. Whatever. It didn't feel preachy to me. Let me be very clear on that. And I liked the story overall. The dialogue in it's great. Seems like something Poison Ivy would say. It just made sense to me, so I get that. And it was just fun. All these stories were just fun. We need to get some of the mainstream guys out there reading some of this stuff. The next one is Batman #1. We get a great story with. It's kind of like a grilled cheese sandwich, isn't it? The recipe's in the title. The first one is Batman and Clayface going at it. The great argument that is often fought in comic book debates, if you will, is if the good guy's allowed to beat up, kill, or whatever, maybe not allowed to, but it's more accepted for him to do it, then why can't the villain do it? That gets asked in here through Clayface, why he takes on the looks of a particular actor who's maybe a little too handsy with women co-stars. Literally shoots the guy in the face. So there's your bad guy point that you're not allowed to do, right? There's that. Batman finds out that the whole thing's a setup for the actor. He didn't really kill the guy. He finds out it's Clayface because he found Clay. Yeah, I know that one's kind of hinky, but it's still a good story. And, of course, Clayface gets away. Next story is Batwoman. Now, I know Batwoman's got her show coming on the CW. I have not seen it. I think I've seen one preview, and I was like, oh, yep, that's That's Batwoman now. In this one, she's actually kind of cool. She's going against Lord Death. Lord Death's been stuck in space now for quite some time by himself in his own little personal hell, and he crash lands to Earth. It was like a prison that the Wayne Enterprise put him there or whatever. So now he's got some sort of beef with Wayne Enterprises. He's going to go drop some bodies. Batman's super far away, so Batwoman shows up to drop that body right into some concrete because you can't kill Lord Death. I didn't like the idea of them using the trope of the wet concrete and all of a sudden he can't just like climb. Like I've stepped in wet concrete. I just pick my foot up and walk up to the side and clean it off. So dropping a body in it didn't make much sense to me and why that would work, but you got to have an ending to a story, right? It's not the whole story. So for that, I'll forgive it. But for the most part, it was a pretty good story. I enjoyed this Batwoman. Super confident, strong, effective, and logical. And I really enjoyed it. It didn't come off as some, those people that do this smirk all the time. Well, actually, it didn't come off as that. So I enjoyed it. Next, the next one. Next one's probably my favorite. First off, there's your splash page opening right up into it. You're in Arkham Asylum with all the villains, and Batman's fighting everybody. He's trying to figure out how all the villains are escaping Arkham Asylum. A question that is often asked by anybody that has read a Batman comic book. You're like, ugh. Okay. He's working with Jim Gordon. They find out that it's a guard by the name of Matthews. Interesting thing in this, Gordon says, well, you would only know that if you had an inside man. Forget Jim Gordon's a detective too. And he's like, well, I did have an inside man. And it was what we think to be the Joker. It's actually Nightwing in a costume. Later, they're all dressed up in tuxedos, and they're trying to find out who killed this guy. We don't know who the guy is. So who killed him? Who did it? A DNA sample says that it was actually Dick Grayson at the end. So mysteries afoot. This is a part 1. Moving on, we get another Harley Quinn story. And I got to be honest with you, this one's kind of disturbing. Again, a villain being villainous. I know. So in this, we get a quick synopsis, another origin story. It's slightly different, but same concept. Harley Quinn grew up in a broken home. Once again in psychiatry. Finds out that running AA meetings and NA meetings just isn't her thing. She really wants to step up her game, so she gets a job at Arkham where she gets to deal with the dirty of the dirty. And her solution is to, the more I become like them, the more I'll be able to understand them and help them. First off, no. In a mental health situation, no. Just because you were an alcoholic at one time doesn't mean you can help people with alcoholic problems. I understand that defeats the purpose of AA, but the whole point of AA is to really bring a bunch of people together to figure something out. Not a doctor that can prescribe medications to make you better. Cognitive behavioral therapy is all about you talking your way to healthiness. Of course, her and the Joker fall in love. They kind of go over that whole spiel, how it happens. I really like this page right here. I think it's the best way to describe their relationship. You got a little hair pulling. You got a holding of a throat. You got somebody trying to jab something in the other person's face. I think that's a good allegory to them. We find out what made Harley Quinn's costume come to be. Apparently, she robbed something from some cheerleaders, some woman jogging, found a mallet, and a hooker's corset. It's literally a corset. And then, of course, we get Harley Quinn. Moving on, while she's telling this story, she's talking about her past, and we see this constantly happen. Some guy saying the upgrade somewheres need to happen at this time, blah, blah, blah. A lot of business talk about a particular game. And then we see somebody handing out games. They're handing out these little game consoles all over the city to children. Well, let me double check, make sure it's all children. That's disturbing. Come to find out, it's actually Harley Quinn at the end of the day, and she had been talking to Deadshot on a rooftop, and the upgrades happened in everybody's game. Harley Quinn set it all up, and it explodes. It goes boom. Harley Quinn just mass murder children. The whole point of this particular story was to show her disassociation with her own emotions. It's actually mentioned in here, and it's pretty interesting. Cognitive disorder, emotional disorder. For instance, if I was sitting here talking to you right now like this, like nothing in the world was ever happening, and life is boring, and I had like a puppy in my hand, and I just snapped its neck and set it off to the side, and it didn't change my emotional affect in any way. That's kind of a deal. So we kind of have that now going on with Harley. And I'll be honest with you, it makes her villainous, and I liked that. Um, Moving on, we get another kind of Court of Owl type story, only the more international version of it. Nightwing's been undercover working for the Owls for a while now to kind of bring them down. So sometimes he has to go do some stupid stuff. He teams up with a character by the name of Raptor. Raptor is kind of a cool cat. I want some more of this character. First, he's got a glove with a claw on it. He's some sort of international thief slash spy, and he's objectively stronger than Nightwing, which is pretty cool. And he basically tells Raptor tells Nightwing, that what was it? Nightwing said something to the effect of, everything I learned from my mentors was blah, truth, justice, and the American way, whatever the trope is. And then as Raptor just basically beats him down, because you need to change your ways because everything you were taught was wrong by Batman. So he knows he hangs out with Batman. And man, that was pretty cool. Like, it was just a good ending. Part 2 should be coming out in the next issue. I'm more than likely going to be picking up some more of these Wallymart books. Because for one thing, for $5, that's what you're getting. Right? Yes, it's a bunch of very short stories. But I just feel like I'm getting more, even though I'm probably not, if that makes any sense. I'm getting more stories for sure, but I'm not getting as much of the story, which keeps me back for more. I'm okay with that. Really great day. Hey, it's been a great day out there. I got to have lunch with Spectacular Spider Grandpa. We were I was walking to pick up some bags of boards, and because I picked up my comic books earlier, and there he was. So we went off to Taco Bell, had lunch together, got to talk, catch back up. That was fun. Other than that, Oh, Baltimore Comic Con. Hey, I got a question for you. Are you going to Baltimore Comic Con? Well, I'll wait. You can check on a flight right now if you like. Well, myself, Spectacular Spider Grandpa, Drew Manchu, and not the entire, but the majority of the crew of the Comic Corps, we're going too. And we want to hang out with you. Now, we're going to have meetups at night. You can meet us on the con floor. We'll have meetups at night. So definitely comment down below. Let me know that you're going. Let's find some way to meet up. That would be great. Love to be able to buy you a beer. Right now, my subscribers are like 166. I can afford that. That I can do. I'm not buying everybody a beer, but whatever. But no, seriously, I'd love to be able to meet you. Let me know if you're going to Baltimore Comic Con. Also, what'd you think about this video and the new way we do the intros? Please let me know by commenting down below. And if you feel so inclined, like, subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell, because anytime between Wednesday and Sunday, I could be popping out a video of something new that I read, maybe something you missed, and you can get a quick synopsis of it. Hey guys, I don't have anything else. That's the end. Let's have an awkward sip of tea. And let me get back to work. Talk to you all later. Bye.